Welcome, traveler of the imagination. Tonight, we drift not across continents or along the borders of nations, but across the shimmering seas where land rises like scattered jewels from the water. These are the islands of the world, some volcanic, some coral, some vast and populated. Others, little more than lonely rocks where birds nest and waves sing. For thousands of years, islands have fascinated explorers, writers, and dreamers alike. They have been places of refuge and exile, of trade and luxury, of cultures shaped in splendid isolation, and of stories that ripple across history. In this video, we will sail through 40 calming facts about islands. From the icy shores of Iceland to the steaming tropics of Indonesia. Each fact is presented in a gentle rhythm, like the rocking of a boat at night. The aim is to relax your mind while feeding your curiosity. Whether you are listening as you prepare for sleep, studying, or simply seeking quiet companionship, I invite you to enjoy this long voyage. If you find yourself soothed by this journey, feel free to like the video and subscribe for more relaxing explorations of the world. And, if you wish, leave a comment sharing your country, your city, and a time of night or day when you're watching. It's always beautiful to see how far across the globe these calm travels reach. Let us begin with the first fact. As our ship sets sail toward the distant horizon of islands, both great and small, one of the most extraordinary things about islands is how they are born. Some rise from fire, volcanic islands like Iceland, Hawaii, and the burst upward from the ocean floor. Built layer upon layer by molten rock until they break the surface. Each new eruption adds another chapter, reshaping coastlines and creating fertile soils that later nurture forests and farms. Others, like the Maldives or Kiribati, form from coral tiny creatures that build limestone skeletons, stacking them slowly until they rise as reefs and atolls. The origin of an island shapes everything about it. The life that thrives there, the people who settle there, and the stories told about it. Volcanic islands tend to be rugged, dramatic, and filled with striking features like craters, lava fields, and steaming hot springs. Coral islands, in contrast, are often low, flat, and fragile, surrounded by turquoise lagoons where marine life flourishes. Consider Iceland. It straddles the mid-Atlantic ridge, a place where two great tectonic plates slowly pull apart, allowing magma to well upward from the mantle. The entire island is alive with geothermal power, from geysers to volcanoes. Its nickname, the land of fire and ice, reflects this contrast of glaciers and eruptions. It is one of the rare places where you can see the Earth's geology at work in real-time lava forming new landscapes, even as icy rivers carve their way through valleys. Indonesia, by contrast, is an archipelago of thousands of islands scattered like pearls along the equator. It owes its existence to the restless collision of the Pacific and Eurasian plates. The result is a chain of volcanoes, many still active, that rise from lush tropical seas. Java, Sumatra, Bali's, the islands are not only homes to millions of people, but also centers of culture, trade, and biodiversity. Islands may be small compared to continents, but they play an outsized role in the history of the world. The Mediterranean island of Crete saw the rise of the Minoan civilization, one of the earliest in Europe. The British Isles became the base of a global empire. Japan, another island nation, developed unique cultural traditions while also shaping the modern world's economy and technology. But not all islands are about power and population. Some, like Easter Island, are reminders of human ingenuity and fragility. There, the Moi statues stand silent, gazing inland, symbols of a culture that thrived in isolation but struggled with limited resources. Other islands, like the Seychelles or the Maldives, are more modern symbols luxury destinations where travel, tourism, and natural beauty converge, attracting visitors from across the globe. To rest on an island is to feel both apart from the world and at its very heart. Surrounded by water, you are cut off from the endless sprawl of continents. Yet islands often become crossroads, places where trade routes meet, where different cultures encounter each other, where ships bring goods, languages, and ideas. In this way, islands are both isolated and connected, fragile and powerful. The world has over 100,000 islands scattered across every ocean and sea. Some, like Greenland, are vast, almost continents in themselves. Others are so small you could walk across them in minutes. The diversity is staggering, and in the next chapters of this journey, we will explore the many forms islands take, the creatures that inhabit them, the myths they inspire, and the role they play in shaping our shared history. As you listen, allow the words to flow slowly, like waves against the shore. Imagine yourself looking out at a calm horizon where the silhouette of an island slowly emerges from the mist. Each fact is like a lighthouse flashing across the water, gentle guide, illuminating without overwhelming. With that image, let us set our course toward the second part of our voyage, where we will look more closely at volcanic islands, those fiery outposts where the earth itself creates land from nothing but heat and pressure. When we think of volcanic islands, our minds often conjure dramatic visions: molten lava cascading into the sea, plumes of smoke rising into the air, and black basalt cliffs against blue waters. Volcanic islands are some of the most striking landscapes on Earth, forged directly by fire. They remind us that the planet is alive, still building and reshaping itself, and that the geography we admire today is never truly permanent. The Hawaiian Islands are perhaps the most famous volcanic chain in the world. They lie in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, far from any continental landmass. Their very existence comes from a geological hotspot, a plume of heat rising from deep within the Earth's mantle. As the Pacific plate slowly moves over this hotspot, new islands form. The older ones, like Kauai, are heavily eroded, covered in deep valleys and lush vegetation. The younger ones, like the Big Island of Hawaii, are still growing, with fresh lava fields pouring into the sea. This process shows us the cycles of creation and erosion happening side by side. Volcanic islands also hold incredible cultural and economic significance. In Hawaii, for example, the volcanic soils are rich and fertile, supporting agriculture such as coffee, pineapples, and sugarcane. Tourism thrives here, too, with visitors drawn by both the natural beauty and the luxury experiences. Resorts nestled along lava rock coasts, spa retreats warmed by geothermal energy, and adventures where people can see active volcanoes up close. Travel and tourism on volcanic islands are often some of the most lucrative sectors of their economy, blending natural wonder with modern comfort. In the Atlantic, Iceland offers another fascinating example. Unlike Hawaii, Iceland sits on the mid-Atlantic ridge, where tectonic plates diverge. The country is a living laboratory of volcanic activity, with eruptions occurring roughly every 5 years. The 2010 eruption of Ajefjalajgol famously disrupted air travel across Europe for weeks, showing how an island's geology can affect the global economy and technology. Yet, Iceland has also turned its fiery energy into a gift: geothermal power. Almost all of its electricity comes from renewable energy, a balance of volcanic heat and glacial rivers. This makes Iceland not only a land of natural wonder, but also a leader in sustainable energy innovation. Another volcanic chain worth noting is the islands situated off the coast of Ecuador. These islands were formed by volcanic eruptions over millions of years. But what makes them remarkable is not just their fiery birth, it is what came after. Isolated in the Pacific, they became a cradle for unique species found nowhere else. The giant tortoises, marine iguanas, and blue-footed boobies that lived there played a role in Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, forever changing science and education. Here we see how geology, nature, and human understanding intertwine. The connection between volcanic islands and biodiversity is profound. Volcanic soil is often rich in minerals, supporting vibrant ecosystems. Rain falls on the high mountains, creating rivers and forests. These isolated environments become havens for species to evolve in unique ways. In Hawaii, for example, there are birds and plants that exist nowhere else on Earth. In Indonesia, volcanoes create fertile land where rice paddies flourish, feeding millions of people. But volcanic islands are not only symbols of creation, they are also reminders of fragility. Eruptions can devastate communities. In 1883, the eruption of Krakatoa in Indonesia was one of the most catastrophic in recorded history. The explosion was heard thousands of kilometers away. Tidal waves destroyed coastal villages, and global weather patterns shifted for years. Today, the island of Anak Krakatoa, or Child of Krakatoa, has grown where the old one once stood, a constant reminder of renewal and destruction. Despite the risks, people have always been drawn to volcanic islands. Their beauty, fertility, and resources outweigh the dangers. This balance of risk and reward is part of human history itself, our willingness to live alongside forces far more powerful than us, finding ways to thrive in landscapes shaped by fire. Even luxury tourism reflects this dynamic. Resorts in Santorini, a volcanic island in Greece, perch on the edge of calderas, offering stunning views of sunsets over a flooded crater. Travelers pay to witness the very landscapes created by ancient eruptions. In Japan, volcanic islands like Kyushu are known for their hot springs or onsen, where people seek relaxation, health, and cultural experiences tied to geothermal energy. These connections between nature, travel, and culture highlight how volcanic islands shape not only land, but also human lives. As we drift forward in this calm journey, we begin to see volcanic islands not simply as places of danger, but as places of immense creativity, both geological and human. From Iceland's clean energy systems to Indonesia's rice terraces, from Hawaii's evolving landscapes to Santorini's luxury hotels, volcanic islands embody both resilience and adaptation. Close your eyes and imagine the scene. The glow of lava against a dark ocean, stars overhead, and the soft hiss of steam as new land is born. These islands are the Earth's storytellers, whispering tales of fire, renewal, and the cycle of life. With this thought, let us gently turn our course to the next kind of island, formed not by fire, but by living creatures themselves, tiny architects that build entire nations from coral and calcium, crafting delicate atolls that rise barely above the sea. Now, let us drift into a softer part of the Earth's story coral atolls. Unlike volcanic islands that rise out of molten fire, atolls are built quietly, patiently, by living organisms. They are among the most fragile and enchanting island forms on our planet, often appearing as perfect rings of turquoise lagoons surrounded by white sands and vibrant coral reefs. The very word atoll comes from the Dhawahi language of the Maldives, where these unique islands are found in abundance. The Maldives themselves are a nation of coral atolls, scattered like pearls across the Indian Ocean. Imagine looking down from above, hundreds of tiny green dots encircled by glowing blue, floating in vast open waters. These are not just islands, but ecosystems, living structures created over thousands of years by coral polyps. The tiny marine animals that secrete calcium carbonate to build reefs. The process of atoll formation was first explained in detail by Charles Darwin during his voyage on the HMS Beagle. Darwin proposed that coral reefs begin forming around volcanic islands. Over time, as the volcanic island slowly sinks back into the ocean, the corals continue to grow upward toward the sunlight. Eventually, the central island disappears below the sea, leaving behind a ring-shaped coral reef with a lagoon in the middle. This idea was revolutionary in the 19th century, blending geology and biology into one elegant explanation. Atolls are home to breathtaking natural wonders. Coral reefs are sometimes called the rainforests of the sea because of their biodiversity. They support thousands of species of fish, mollusks, and marine mammals. The bright parrotfish nibbling on coral, the reef sharks gliding through lagoons, and the sea turtles nesting on sandy beaches all find their homes here. For humans, too, atolls are havens of culture and survival. Islanders have long relied on fishing, coconut palms, and trade to sustain life. Yet, despite their beauty, coral atolls are incredibly fragile. Rising sea levels caused by climate change threaten to submerge them entirely. Some scientists warn that nations like the Maldives, Tuvalu, and Kiribati could become uninhabitable within a century if global warming continues unchecked. For these communities, the issue is not only environmental, but also cultural and economic. The possibility of losing their land means losing traditions, languages, and ways of life built over centuries. Tourism, however, plays a dual role. On one hand, luxury resorts on coral atolls, like those in the Maldives, bring in vital income. Travelers seek out the pristine beaches, overwater villas, and snorkeling experiences in crystal-clear lagoons. These destinations are often marketed as paradises of relaxation and exclusivity, contributing significantly to the local economy. On the other hand, mass tourism can strain ecosystems, leading to coral bleaching, waste management challenges, and pressure on freshwater supplies. Balancing luxury travel with conservation has become one of the defining challenges for atoll nations. The resilience of atoll communities is remarkable. Islanders have long adapted to living with scarce resources, using ingenious methods to collect rainwater, cultivate limited crops, and build homes resistant to storms. In some places, technology is helping. Artificial islands are being constructed to protect populations from rising seas. The Maldives, for example, has explored building higher islands on reclaimed land, blending tradition with modern engineering. Culturally, atolls are more than landscapes. They are centers of storytelling, navigation, and identity. In the Pacific, the people of Tuvalu and Kiribati are renowned for their seafaring skills, navigating across vast distances using stars, waves, and bird movements. Oral traditions tie families to specific reefs and lagoons, embedding geography into culture in ways that are deeply personal. From a natural perspective, atolls also act as protective barriers. They shield coastlines from waves and storms, preserving not only human settlements, but also fragile ecosystems like mangroves and seagrass beds. These areas provide nurseries for fish and store significant amounts of carbon, quietly playing a role in regulating the global climate. There is a poetic paradox in atolls. They are at once delicate and enduring, built by tiny creatures, yet strong enough to withstand centuries of tides, vulnerable to the rising sea, yet continuing to grow and expand under the waves. They remind us of balance, how small things can create great beauty, and how survival often comes through cooperation. Close your eyes and picture drifting in a lagoon at twilight. The stars shimmer above, and the sound of waves breaking gently on the reef surrounds you. It is peaceful, but beneath that peace is the constant labor of coral polyps, building and repairing, keeping the atoll alive. As we leave these delicate rings of life, we turn next toward islands of ice and snow-frozen landscapes where glaciers carve fjords and cultures, thrive in some of the harshest conditions on Earth. From the Maldives' warmth to Greenland's chill, the world of islands is as diverse as it is wondrous. Now, let us journey from the turquoise lagoons of coral atolls to the frozen frontiers of icy islands. These are lands sculpted not by fire or coral, but by glaciers, permafrost, and endless winters. They might appear stark and desolate at first glance, but they hold stories of survival, resilience, and cultures deeply intertwined with the rhythm of ice. One of the most striking examples is Greenland, the world's largest island. Though politically linked to Denmark, Greenland is geographically part of North America and covered by an ice sheet so vast it holds about 10% of the world's fresh water. Imagine an island where ice stretches for more than 1.7 million square kilometers, rising in ridges and frozen plains that reflect the sunlight in dazzling brilliance. Yet, along its coasts, small communities thrive, fishing for cod and halibut, hunting seals, and preserving traditions that date back thousands of years. Greenland's ice sheet is more than just a frozen wilderness. It plays a vital role in regulating the global climate. The white surface reflects sunlight back into space, helping to cool the planet. But as temperatures rise, the ice is melting more quickly, contributing significantly to rising sea levels worldwide. Scientists often call Greenland a climate time bomb, a place where what happens locally affects coastlines as far away as Florida, Bangladesh, or the Maldives. Another remarkable icy island is Iceland, known for its dramatic contrasts. While glaciers cover more than 10% of the island, volcanic activity makes the ground beneath them restless. Iceland sits on the mid-Atlantic ridge, where the North American and Eurasian tectonic plates slowly drift apart. This unique geography gives rise to glaciers and volcanoes existing side by side. Imagine walking across a glacier only to see steam rising from hot springs nearby. The country has learned to use this balance to its advantage. Geothermal energy now provides much of Iceland's electricity and heating, a remarkable example of blending natural forces into a sustainable economy. Life on icy islands has always required adaptation. The Inuit people of Greenland, for instance, developed remarkable survival techniques to thrive in harsh climates. They mastered the use of kayaks for hunting across icy waters, dog sleds for transport across snowfields, and clothing made from animal skins to stay warm. These innovations were not luxuries, but necessities, carefully tuned to the environment over centuries. Culturally, icy islands inspire both awe and storytelling. Iceland is famous for its sagas, epic tales of gods, heroes, and explorers that were written down nearly 1,000 years ago. They describe voyages across rough seas, encounters with mythical creatures, and the struggle between nature and human ambition. These stories are not only literature, but reflections of how deeply the landscape shaped the imagination of its people. Tourism also thrives on icy islands, though in very different ways than on coral atolls. Instead of snorkeling and sandy beaches, travelers seek out glacial hikes, northern lights displays, and luxury stays in glass igloos where one can watch the aurora dance across the Arctic sky. The tourism economy in places like Iceland has boomed in recent decades, showing how even seemingly remote islands can become global destinations. Beyond the Arctic, we find other icy islands shaped by glaciers. The Svalbard archipelago, under Norwegian control, lies halfway between mainland Europe and the North Pole. It is one of the northernmost inhabited areas in the world. Here, polar bears outnumber people, and the midnight sun shines for months in summer, while darkness rules in winter. Svalbard is also home to the Global Seed Vault, an underground facility designed to protect humanity's agricultural heritage in case of disaster. Deep within the permafrost, seeds from all over the world are stored, a quiet safeguard for the future of food and civilization. In the southern hemisphere, Antarctica is not technically an island. It is a continent, but it is surrounded by smaller islands of ice, like South Georgia and the South Sandwich Islands. South Georgia, once a hub of whaling, is now a wildlife sanctuary, home to millions of penguins, seals, and seabirds. These islands are almost untouched by human settlement, serving instead as laboratories for understanding climate change and ecosystems that exist in extreme isolation. Economically, icy islands face unique challenges. Greenland, for example, depends heavily on fishing exports and subsidies from Denmark. But as the ice melts, new opportunities emerge. Shipping routes across the Arctic shorten the distance between Europe and Asia, while mining companies eye untapped resources beneath the ice. This creates a delicate balance between economic growth and environmental preservation, a theme that resonates globally. There is also a sense of poetry in the icy islands. Unlike tropical atolls that feel like endless summers, these lands remind us of endurance. The silence of a glacier, the slow creaking of icebergs as they drift into the sea, and the faint glow of the northern lights over frozen fjords all create a sense of stillness that is rare in our busy world. They are landscapes that whisper patience, resilience, and humility. As you imagine these icy worlds, picture the crunch of snow underfoot, the crisp air that carries the scent of salt and frost, and the sound of sled dogs barking against a backdrop of endless white. Though the environment is harsh, it is also deeply peaceful an environment that demands respect and rewards those who adapt to its rhythm. From ice, we will next travel to islands of fire, volcanic lands, where molten lava builds new worlds and where the earth itself seems alive with constant creation. These fiery islands stand as the dramatic counterpart to the frozen north, reminding us of the diverse ways our planet shapes its lands and the lives upon them. Now we leave the frozen silence of glacial islands and step into landscapes where the earth is restless, alive, and always in motion. These are volcanic islands, lands born from fire, sculpted by eruptions and shaped by molten rock that once poured into the sea. If icy islands teach us patience, volcanic islands remind us of constant change, creation, and renewal. One of the most famous volcanic islands is Hawaii, located in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Unlike islands near continental shelves, Hawaii is formed by what scientists call a hotspot. Deep beneath the ocean, plumes of molten rock push through the Earth's crust, creating volcanoes that rise above the sea surface. Over millions of years, this process built the Hawaiian archipelago, island by island. The Big Island, also called Hawaii, is still growing today, as eruptions from Klauia and Mauna Loa continuously add new land. To stand on Hawaii's black lava fields is to stand on some of the youngest land on Earth. The culture of Hawaii is deeply tied to its volcanic origins. In Hawaiian tradition, the goddess Pele is believed to reside within the volcanoes, her fiery temper shaping the land. Eruptions are not merely geological events, but also spiritual expressions, part of a living mythology that connects people to the forces of the earth. Modern science studies these eruptions to understand volcanic activity. But the stories carry their own kind of wisdom, that humans must live in balance with powerful natural forces. Beyond Hawaii, volcanic islands can be found in every ocean. The Canary Islands, off the coast of Africa, are another striking example. Formed by volcanic activity millions of years ago, they now attract millions of tourists each year. Travelers come to hike across volcanic craters, relax on black sand beaches and explore unique ecosystems where desert-like landscapes meet lush forests. The Canary Islands blend natural wonder with economic prosperity, showing how tourism and volcanic heritage can coexist. Indonesia, too, is a land defined by volcanic islands. The country sits on a Pacific ring of fire, where tectonic plates collide, producing earthquakes and frequent eruptions. One of the most famous volcanic islands here is Krakatoa, which erupted catastrophically in 1883. The explosion was so powerful that it was heard as far away as Australia, and it sent shockwaves around the globe. The eruption created tsunamis, destroyed much of the island, and lowered global temperatures for several years. Yet today, a new island has risen from the sea, Anak Krakatau, or Child of Krakatoa. It is a reminder that destruction and creation often go hand in hand in volcanic regions. Economically, volcanic islands present both risks and opportunities. Fertile volcanic soil is among the richest in the world, ideal for farming crops like coffee, bananas, and rice. This is why islands with active volcanoes, despite the danger, are often densely populated. People are drawn to the prosperity that fertile land offers, even if it means living under the shadow of eruptions. In Java, Bali, and other parts of Indonesia, volcanic soil has supported vibrant civilizations for centuries. Volcanic islands also draw travelers in search of unique experiences. In Santorini, Greece, visitors walk along cliffs that are the remnants of a volcanic caldera, looking out over deep blue waters. The island's dramatic landscape was formed by a massive eruption around 1600 BCE, one that may have inspired the legend of Atlantis. Today, Santorini is a symbol of beauty and luxury travel, with whitewashed villages perched above the sea. Yet it is also a place where history and geology intertwine in unforgettable ways. Iceland, though known for glaciers, is also home to fiery volcanic landscapes. The island's eruptions are powerful enough to disrupt global air travel, as seen in 2010 when the Ajifjalajgal volcano sent ash clouds across Europe. Yet these same volcanic forces also provide the geothermal energy that powers Iceland's homes and industries. Here, as in Hawaii, people have turned volcanic energy into an economic and technological advantage. Volcanic islands are also biodiversity hotspots. Because they often start as barren rock, the arrival of life is like a slow unfolding drama. Seeds carried by wind or birds take root, animals adapt to isolated conditions, and unique ecosystems evolve. The islands, though not volcanic in the sense of constant eruptions, are volcanic in origin. Their isolation gave rise to species found nowhere else on Earth, famously studied by Charles Darwin. These islands remind us that fire-born lands can become cradles of life and scientific discovery. Culturally, volcanic islands inspire awe and sometimes fear. Myths of gods, demons, and spirits often surround volcanoes. In Japan, Mount Fuji, though not an island, holds similar significance, symbolizing beauty, danger, and the spiritual link between earth and sky. In island societies, volcanoes are often seen as both protectors and destroyers, shaping traditions, art, and belief. But volcanic islands are not just about destruction or creation. They are about cycles. Lava flows into the sea, hardens into new land, breaks down into fertile soil, and supports forests and farms. Over centuries, what was once molten fire becomes a place where civilizations flourish. It is the Earth's reminder that change is not only inevitable, but also necessary for renewal. Imagine yourself standing on the edge of a volcanic island at dusk. The air is warm. The ocean breeze carries the scent of sulfur and salt. And in the distance, you see the faint glow of lava flowing toward the sea. Waves crash against new land. Steam rises, and the sound is a mix of power and serenity. Volcanic islands are living proof that our planet is not static, but alive, constantly reshaping itself before our eyes. As we leave these fiery landscapes, our journey will next take us to islands shaped not by ice or fire, but by rivers and deltas. These islands emerge where fresh water meets the sea, fertile and teeming with life, cradling some of the densest populations and oldest civilizations on Earth. We now move away from fire-born islands and enter places that emerge from the quiet, patient work of rivers. These are delta islands, sandbars, and fertile patches formed where fresh water meets the sea. Unlike volcanic or glacial islands, which speak of extremes, delta islands are symbols of nourishment and settlement. They have given birth to cities, supported civilizations, and today continue to be centers of culture, economy, and human innovation. One of the most famous delta islands is in Egypt, where the Nile River fans out into the Mediterranean. See, the Nile Delta is not just one island, but a network of fertile patches and shifting riverbanks that, for thousands of years, supported Egyptian civilization. This is the land where wheat and papyrus grew, where fishing villages thrived, and where ancient Egyptians looked to the river as both lifeline and boundary. The islands of the Nile Delta have shifted countless times, sometimes swallowed by the sea, sometimes reborn through deposits of silt. This constant renewal reminds us of the fragile but enduring relationship between water and land. Across the globe, in Bangladesh, the Ganges-Brahmaputra Delta is home to one of the largest networks of river islands on Earth. Here, the islands, locally known as chars, appear and disappear with floods. People live on these islands knowing they may vanish within a few years. Yet, they adapt by building light, movable houses, and cultivating crops quickly. Despite this uncertainty, the Delta remains one of the most densely populated regions in the world, feeding millions through fertile soils renewed by seasonal floods. It is a place where resilience is not just a concept, but a way of life. Closer to Europe, we find the islands of the Danube River Delta, where the Danube spills into the Black Sea. These islands are lush, covered with red beds, forests, and wetlands. They are a sanctuary for birds and wildlife, making the Delta one of the most biodiverse places in Europe. Birdwatching and quiet river cruises. Birdwatching and quiet river cruises. The Delta's islands remind us that not all islands are dramatic or dangerous, and humming with the gentle rhythm of nature. In North America, the Mississippi River Delta has its own set of islands, marshlands, and shifting wetlands. New Orleans and its surroundings exist in this watery landscape, where levees and canals attempt to manage the ever-changing river. The Delta Islands here are vital for both ecology and economy, serving as buffers against storms, nurseries for fish, and a foundation for culture. Jazz, Creole cuisine, and river trade all emerge from this unique blending of land and water. Yet, climate change and rising seas threaten these islands, reminding us of how delicate delta lands can be. Economically, river and delta islands are treasures. Their fertile soils make them prime for agriculture. Rice paddies in the Mekong Delta of Vietnam stretch across islands and waterways, feeding millions and supporting export economies. Coconut palms sway along riverbanks, while floating markets thrive on the narrow waterways. Here, islands are not only physical places, but also part of a cultural landscape where trade, community, and tradition flow with the river. But these islands also face challenges. Sediment that once built them is often trapped by dams upstream. Rising seas erode their edges. Urban growth pushes deeper into delta systems. In many parts of the world, delta islands are shrinking, and communities must adapt quickly. Education, technology, and sustainable planning are now essential for their survival. Some countries invest in reforestation of mangroves to stabilize their deltas, combining ancient natural defenses with modern strategies. River islands are not only about survival and practicality, they also carry beauty and wonder. Picture the tiny islands of Kerala's backwaters in India, where houseboats glide through palm-lined canals. Here, islands are sanctuaries of calm, where time seems to move slower, and water reflects the sky in endless shades of blue and green. These islands are economic engines for tourism, but they are also cultural heartlands where fishing, farming, and traditional crafts continue to thrive. In South America, the Amazon River creates countless islands as it weaves its way across the continent. Some of these islands are larger than entire countries. Iceland, at the mouth of the Amazon in Brazil, is the world's largest river island, larger than Switzerland. Covered in wetlands, forests, and savannas, it is home to water buffalo, unique bird species, and small farming communities. The Amazon's islands are as dynamic as the river itself, constantly shifting, changing, and nurturing life in unexpected ways. Historically, delta islands have been strategic centers. They are natural hubs of trade, as rivers connect inland communities with the sea. In ancient Mesopotamia, delta islands of the Tigris and Euphrates supported the first urban centers. In China, river islands in the Yangtze Delta supported rice cultivation and bustling cities like Shanghai. Across cultures, deltas have been crossroads where civilizations met, economies flourished, and innovations spread. Tourism today also thrives in these regions. From luxury river cruises in the Mekong and Nile to eco-lodges in the Danube Delta, people are drawn to these landscapes for their beauty and tranquility. Here, travel is not about rushing, but about slowing down, listening to the river, and experiencing cultures that live in harmony with water. Spiritually, rivers and their islands often hold sacred meaning. In Hinduism, many river islands are considered holy, places of pilgrimage and meditation. In Buddhism, river deltas are seen as symbols of interconnectedness, where countless streams join together as one. Even outside religion, there is something inherently calming about islands formed by water. The water flows softly around you, carrying silt, fish, and fragments of stories from far upstream. Birds settle into the reeds, fishermen cast their nets, and in the distance you see a boat slowly moving toward the horizon. There is no drama here, no explosions of fire or shattering, ice only, the steady, nourishing rhythm of a river's embrace. As we leave these river and delta islands, our journey will flow toward islands of coral and reef. Unlike river islands, which grow from silt and soil, coral islands are the work of tiny living creatures. They are fragile, beautiful, and among the most threatened places on Earth. Yet, they hold mysteries and wonders that rival any volcano or glacier. Now we sail away from muddy river deltas and toward the glowing turquoise waters of coral seas. Here, in the warmth of the tropics, the ocean builds its own islands, fragile, luminous, and entirely unlike the volcanic or sedimentary islands we have explored. These are coral and reef islands, created not by fire or rivers, but by the slow, persistent labor of countless tiny creatures. They are at once delicate and powerful, sustaining human life, global economies, and ecosystems that rival rainforests in their diversity. At the heart of a coral island is the coral polyp, a tiny marine animal that builds limestone skeletons. Over centuries, even millennia, these skeletons piled together, forming reefs. When reefs grow upward and break the surface of the sea, they create islands low, flat, and often ring-shaped. These are called atolls. One of the most magical landforms on Earth, an atoll looks like a necklace of sand and palms encircling a turquoise lagoon. A vision so serene, it almost feels unreal. One of the largest and most famous coral islands is in the Maldives, a nation of nearly 1,200 islands spread across the Indian Ocean. The Maldives are a symbol of luxury travel, with overwater villas, white beaches, and crystal lagoons. Yet, beneath the tourism industry lies a fragile foundation: the coral itself. Without healthy reefs, the Maldives could not exist. They are both paradise and precarious, reminding us of how deeply human prosperity is tied to nature. The Pacific Ocean holds countless coral islands, from the Marshall Islands to Kiribati, Tuvalu, and the Cook Islands. These islands are home to unique cultures, navigation traditions, and oral histories. Ancient Polynesians mastered the art of wayfinding, crossing vast oceans using the stars, waves, and the flight of birds. They settled coral islands that today face rising seas, their cultures both vulnerable and resilient. In these communities, the ocean is not a barrier, but a highway, and the islands are stepping stones across the world's largest sea. One striking example is Bikini Atoll in the Marshall Islands. Though serene and beautiful, it carries a darker story. In the mid-20th century, it became a testing ground for nuclear weapons, displacing local people and altering the environment. Today, the atoll remains largely uninhabited, a haunting reminder of how fragile coral islands can be when faced with modern technology. Yet even here, marine life has rebounded, and divers explore the sunken relics of history beneath its waters. Economically, coral islands are significant beyond tourism. They are fisheries powerhouses, providing food and livelihoods for millions. Reefs act as nurseries for fish, protecting coastlines from erosion, and supporting industries from small-scale fishing to luxury resorts. In places like the Great Barrier Reef, entire regional economies rely on the reef's health. Coral islands are not just vacation destinations, they are global assets tied to culture, economy, and survival. Culturally, coral islands carry deep traditions. In Fiji, Vanuatu, and Micronesia, communities have long woven their identity with reefs. They build boats from island timber, fish with sustainable methods, and tell legends of sea spirits that protect the reefs. Oral histories often warn of overfishing or greed, teaching generations to care for the sea that sustains them. These stories are both cultural heritage and ecological wisdom, passed gently from one era to the next. Coral islands are also laboratories of science. Biologists study them to understand resilience in the face of climate change. And geologists study their formations to track sea levels over millennia. They reveal how life itself can build land, how ecosystems create structures visible from space. When astronauts look back at Earth, atolls sparkle like tiny emerald rings in vast blue oceans. They are among the most beautiful natural wonders visible from orbit. Yet coral islands are among the most endangered places on Earth. Rising seas, warming waters, and ocean acidification threaten their very existence. As temperatures rise, corals expel the colorful algae that live within them, leading to coral bleaching. Without urgent action, entire reefs could vanish, taking with them not only islands, but also cultures, economies, and biodiversity. This is why coral islands often stand at the center of global climate negotiations. Small island nations, though tiny in land area, raise powerful voices on behalf of the planet. Tourism, luxury, and sustainability are now closely linked on these islands. Resorts in the Maldives, Seychelles, and French Polynesia increasingly promote eco-friendly practices, from coral nurseries to renewable energy. Travelers seeking paradise are also encouraged to become stewards, understanding that their dream destinations depend on fragile reefs. Education merges with travel here, reminding visitors that luxury must walk hand in hand with conservation. But beyond politics and economics, coral islands hold an almost dreamlike quality. Imagine stepping onto a narrow strip of white sand, barely wider than a city street, lined with swaying palms. Ahead of you, the lagoon glows in 100 shades of blue. Behind you, the open ocean stretches to the horizon. The island hums with life crabs scuttling across sand, tropical birds calling overhead, fish darting in the shallows. And yet, the land beneath your feet was built not by rock or fire, but by countless tiny animals over centuries of patience. It is a reminder of both fragility and persistence, of beauty shaped grain by grain, shell by shell. As night falls on a coral island, the stars reflect in the still lagoon. The air is warm, the sea is calm, and the silence is broken only by the sound of gentle waves. Here, under the vast Pacific sky, you can feel the immense interconnectedness of Earth, how small actions ripple outward, How delicate ecosystems sustain entire cultures. How islands, born from reefs, remind us that life itself builds the world we live in. From these fragile jewels of the sea, we will next journey to islands of mystery remote, legendary, and often shrouded in stories. These are places that blend geography with myth, where boundaries blur between reality and imagination. They are islands that have puzzled travelers, inspired explorers, and shaped global culture in ways as curious as they are enduring. Now we enter a realm where geography blends with folklore, where islands are not only real places, but also stages for myth, imagination, and enduring curiosity. Across history, sailors and storytellers have filled the world's maps with islands, both seen and unseen, some lost to the sea, others discovered again and again under different names. These legendary and mysterious islands captivate not only explorers but also dreamers, drawing us into tales of treasure, magic, and the boundaries between the known and the unknown. One of the most famous is Atlantis, first described by the philosopher Plato. He spoke of a mighty island, civilization that sank beneath the waves in a single day and night of misfortune. Though no evidence has ever been found, the story of Atlantis has inspired explorers, novelists, filmmakers, and even modern tourism. From the Mediterranean to the Caribbean, countless places have claimed ties, turning myth into a form of cultural economy. Atlantis reminds us of the human fascination with lost worlds and how geography and imagination often intertwine. Another mysterious island is Hybrasil, said to lie off the west coast of Ireland. For centuries, it appeared on maps, drawn as a circular island, often shrouded in mist. Sailors claim to have seen it, only rarely, visible for a day, once every 7 years. Though never confirmed, Hybrasil became part of Irish folklore, representing mystery and longing, a land that exists somewhere between myth and reality. Even in the age of satellites, the idea of invisible or disappearing islands still stirs curiosity. The Pacific Ocean is home to another legendary island, Non Mato in Micronesia. Unlike Atlantis or Hybrasil, this one is real, yet it feels otherworldly. Nan Madol is an ancient city built on artificial islets with massive stone blocks stacked into canals and temples. Archaeologists still debate how it was constructed. Given the sheer weight of the basalt stones and the lack of advanced technology at the time, Non Madol is often called the Venice of the Pacific. But it also carries echoes of mysteries, suggesting an island culture that mastered engineering in ways still not fully understood. In Japan, myths surround the island of Okinoshima, considered so sacred that women are forbidden to set foot on it. Even men must undergo purification rituals before visiting. The island has been a site of rituals for centuries, with thousands of artifacts left as offerings to the gods of the sea. Declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site, Okinoshima reflects how islands can be sanctuaries of belief, places where geography meets the divine. Some mysterious islands are not shaped by myths alone, but by navigational errors. Take Sandy Island in the Coral Sea, charted on maps for centuries, but later found not to exist. In 2012, scientists sailed to its supposed location and found only open water, It was erased from maps soon after, but the story of Sandy Island lingers as a reminder of how, even in the modern age, human perception can create phantom lands. There are also islands of fear and cautionary tales. The Greek island of Santorini, for instance, is believed by some to have inspired the Atlantis myth, once home to the flourishing Minoan civilization. It was devastated by a volcanic eruption around 1600 BCE, one of the most powerful eruptions in history. The island was shattered, creating the caldera we see today. The disaster reshaped not only Santorini, but also Mediterranean trade, culture, and legend. What remains today is one of the world's most iconic travel destinations, a blend of beauty, history, and echoes of catastrophe. Some islands became associated with pirates and hidden treasures. Isla de Morta, in pirate lore, though fictional, was inspired by the many Caribbean islands used as hideouts by real-life pirates. In the South China Sea, stories tell of islands where treasure fleets hid their riches. Whether real or invented, these tales added to the romance of seafaring, drawing adventurers in search of fortune. Even today, islands spark treasure hunts, whether for lost civilizations or gold buried beneath the sands. Islands of exile also carry an air of mystery. Napoleon's final years on St. Helena transformed the island into a stage of global history. Remote, windswept, and isolated, it became synonymous with exile. Carved from volcanic stone and standing sentinel across the landscape, these statues raise enduring questions. How were they moved? What did they symbolize? The island whispers both history and enigma. Economically and culturally, mysterious islands play a larger role than their size suggests. They inspire literature, like Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island or Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe. They shape tourism as travelers flock to Santorini, Rapa Nui, or even fictional Atlantis-themed resorts. They fuel education, sparking curiosity in classrooms about geography, navigation, and archaeology. In this way, islands of myth and mystery continue to generate both wonder and revenue, bridging culture, travel, and history. But beyond economics, these islands remind us of the human need for stories. Every island, whether real or imagined, becomes a mirror for our hopes and fears. They represent escape, discovery, paradise, or punishment. They are canvases on which cultures paint their legends, where geography becomes more than land and water, it becomes imagination itself. Picture standing on the black volcanic cliffs of Santorini, looking across a sea-filled caldera, the evening sun turning the white villages gold. Or imagine sailing through Micronesia, approaching Nanmado's ruins at dusk, the basalt stones glowing faintly in the fading light. Each island holds a story, and each story reveals how humans see the world not only as it is, but as it could be. From these islands of mystery, we move next to islands of incredible biodiversity sanctuaries, where evolution has taken strange and beautiful turns. Islands where giant tortoises, rare birds, and unique plants tell the story of life's adaptability. These are not the islands of legend, but the laboratories of nature, where isolation creates wonders found nowhere else on Earth. Let us now wander into the living worlds of islands that serve as natural laboratories, places where isolation has sculpted ecosystems into something entirely unique. Unlike continents, which are vast and interconnected, islands are often cut off from the rest of the planet, forcing plants and animals to evolve in unusual ways. This creates landscapes where the ordinary rules of nature bend, where species grow larger or smaller than expected, and where life adapts with astonishing creativity. Perhaps the most famous example lies in the islands off the coast of Ecuador. Charles Darwin visited them in 1835 during his voyage on the HMS Beagle. What he observed: the varied beaks of finches, the giant tortoises with shells shaped by their island habitats, and the marine iguanas that learned to swim, helped shape his theory of natural selection. They remain a living classroom of evolution, home to species found nowhere else. Visitors today still marvel at how close one can get to wildlife, where sea lions nap on benches and blue-footed boobies dance in courtship displays. The islands remind us that isolation can spark creativity in life itself. Madagascar, though larger than many islands, is another realm of biodiversity. Separated from Africa for millions of years, it developed its own evolutionary path. Over 90% of its wildlife is endemic, meaning it exists nowhere else. Lemurs leap through the trees. Baobabs stretch like ancient guardians, and chameleons display dazzling colors. Economically, Madagascar faces challenges, but its natural heritage fuels ecotourism and global fascination. Scientists sometimes call it the eighth continent, a world apart, where evolution tells an alternate version of Earth's story. In the Indian Ocean lies the Seychelles, a chain of islands with rare species, such as the giant Aldabra tortoise. Unlike their cousins, these tortoises live on a coral, a place both fragile and resilient. Their slow, ancient presence adds a timeless rhythm to the islands, a reminder that life moves at many paces. Tourism thrives here, not only for luxury beaches, but also for nature reserves that protect unique flora and fauna. It is a blend of paradise and preservation, where biodiversity is part of both economy and culture. Across the Pacific, New Guinea holds one of the richest concentrations of biodiversity on the planet. Although it is the second largest island in the world, it is also incredibly diverse. Its rainforests shelter birds of paradise, whose extravagant feathers and dances seem almost unreal. Countless species of insects and plants remain undiscovered, making New Guinea a treasure trove for science. Yet the island is also home to diverse cultures, with hundreds of languages spoken, reminding us that biodiversity extends beyond nature into the human sphere. Smaller islands can hold surprises, too. Take Komodo in Indonesia, home to the Komodo dragon, the largest lizard in the world. These formidable creatures roam the island, symbols of prehistoric resilience. Tourists travel from around the globe to witness them, blending adventure with ecological awareness. Economically, the Komodo dragon has become a guardian of the island's identity, proving that even a single species can shape tourism, culture, and global recognition. In the Caribbean, Dominica offers a different perspective. Known as the Nature Island, it is lush with rainforests, waterfalls, and boiling volcanic lakes. Dominica's economy benefits less from luxury tourism and more from eco-adventurers drawn to its biodiversity. From parrots to whales, the island hosts a vibrant array of life. Here, biodiversity not only sustains the ecosystem, but also sustains a vision of travel that values harmony with nature. The Canary Islands, though often associated with beaches and tourism, also hold unique life. Their volcanic origins created habitats for species such as the Canary Island pine, adapted to withstand fire. Endemic lizards, birds, and plants remind visitors that even highly visited islands still contain secret worlds of biodiversity. The blend of tourism, culture, and ecology demonstrates how islands balance economic growth with natural heritage. We also find remarkable biodiversity in the Philippines, an archipelago of over 7,000 islands. With such vast diversity of landscapes, from mountains to coral reefs, the Philippines ranks as a biodiversity hotspot. It is home to the Philippine eagle, one of the largest and most powerful eagles in the world, as well as rare amphibians and plants. Its coral reefs, like the Tupataha Reefs Natural Park, host some of the most vibrant marine ecosystems anywhere. These reefs are not just natural wonders, they support fisheries, protect coastlines, and attract divers from across the globe. Islands, with their isolation, often create gigantism or dwarfism. Animals on islands may grow larger without predators or shrink to survive on limited resources. The dodo of Mauritius, sadly extinct, is an iconic example. Without predators, it lost the ability to fly, becoming a large, ground-dwelling bird. Its extinction, brought about by human arrival, stands as a cautionary tale about the fragility of island ecosystems. Today, conservation movements often focus on islands precisely because they are both rich in biodiversity and vulnerable to loss. Economically, islands of biodiversity often face a dual role. They are both sanctuaries of nature and magnets for tourism. Protecting wildlife while supporting economies requires balance. Ecotourism has emerged as a powerful force, offering visitors a chance to experience biodiversity while funding conservation. From Madagascar's lemurs to the tortoises, biodiversity becomes both a global treasure and a source of sustainable development. Culturally, islands rich in biodiversity also inspire art, music, and storytelling. Polynesian legends speak of birds guiding navigators, while Malagasy folklore surrounds lemurs with symbolic meaning. For many island communities, biodiversity is not just science, it is heritage woven into daily life and belief systems. As we listen to these islands, we hear a lesson. Isolation fosters uniqueness, but uniqueness requires protection. Every species, every coral reef, every bird of paradise reminds us of the wonder of Earth's diversity. And yet, with climate change and human expansion, many island ecosystems face rising seas and shrinking habitats. They call upon us not just to admire them, but to safeguard them. From these sanctuaries of life, we will next turn to volcanic islands, places where fire meets water, where creation and destruction unfold side by side. Islands born of magma and ash, whose very existence is a reminder that our planet is alive and ever-changing. When we think of islands, many of us picture palm trees, beaches, and turquoise waters. Yet beneath that serene surface lies a fiery truth. Most islands on Earth are volcanic in origin, born from molten rock erupting from the seafloor or from tectonic collisions. Volcanic islands are evidence of Earth's restless energy. Their landscapes may appear timeless, but they are in fact young and dynamic, still rising, shifting, and changing under the power of fire. Let us begin with Iceland, perched atop both the mid-Atlantic ridge and a volcanic hotspot. Few places on Earth show the marriage of fire and ice so dramatically. Volcanoes rise beside glaciers, geysers erupt in rhythmic bursts, and lava fields stretch into the horizon. Iceland is a living laboratory of geology, where tectonic plates drift apart and magma surges upward. Economically, this fiery energy fuels Iceland's use of geothermal power, making the island a leader in renewable energy. Tourism also thrives as travelers come to soak in hot springs, witness the northern lights, and marvel at landscapes forged by eruptions. Iceland proves that volcanic origins can create both natural hazards and economic opportunities. Further south, the Canary Islands offer another perspective on volcanic life. Tenerife, the largest island, is dominated by Mount Tide, Spain's highest peak and one of the world's largest volcanoes. Its dramatic slopes attract millions of tourists annually, combining luxury resorts with rugged volcanic scenery. The volcanic soil supports unique flora, such as the striking red Tagenist plant, which blooms in tall spires. Here we see how volcanoes shape not only geography, but also agriculture and culture, creating a sense of identity linked directly to fire. Hawaii is perhaps the most famous volcanic archipelago. Each island in the chain is born of volcanic activity, with the youngest, Hawaii Island, the Big Island, still expanding as lava flows into the sea. Kilauea and Mauna Loa, two of Earth's most active volcanoes, continue to remind inhabitants of the island's raw power. Yet from this power comes fertility. Lush rainforests thrive, and agriculture flourishes in volcanic soils. The cultural history of Hawaii is deeply tied to its volcanoes, with Pele, the goddess of fire, revered in Hawaiian mythology. Tourism, one of the main economic pillars, is built upon this blend of fiery landscapes and cultural richness. In Indonesia, volcanic islands are everywhere, straddling the fiery ring of fire. Mount Krakatoa, perhaps the most infamous, erupted in 1883 with such force that the sound was heard thousands of kilometers away. It destroyed much of the island and reshaped the surrounding region. Yet from its ashes rose Anak Krakatau, a new island still growing today. Indonesia's volcanic islands are fertile, supporting rice fields, plantations, and dense populations. They are both a gift and a danger, with eruptions capable of devastating communities while also sustaining them with fertile soil and geothermal energy. Japan, too, is defined by volcanic islands from Hokkaido to Okinawa. Mount Fuji, the iconic symbol of Japan, is itself a volcano revered for its beauty and spiritual significance. Volcanic hot springs, or onsen, are central to Japanese culture and tourism, offering relaxation and healing. Economically, Volcanic islands in Japan also provide geothermal energy, a sustainable resource increasingly valuable in modern times. The delicate balance between danger and benefit is visible everywhere in these landscapes. The Azores, a Portuguese archipelago in the Atlantic, rise from the mid-Atlantic ridge. Their volcanic landscapes feature crater lakes, thermal springs, and dramatic coastlines. Agriculture thrives here, from tea plantations to vineyards, supported by volcanic soils. Tourism is growing, centered around nature, whale watching, and geothermal spas. The Azores remind us that volcanic islands can be both remote sanctuaries and growing economic hubs. In the South Pacific, Samoa and Tonga are volcanic archipelagos with deep cultural connections to their fiery landscapes. Volcanic activity continues to shape these islands, sometimes creating entirely new land. In 2015, a new island formed in Tonga after an eruption, adding a new chapter to its geography. These islands highlight the constant evolution of volcanic worlds, where creation and destruction are inseparable. The Caribbean also hosts volcanic islands, from Montserrat to St. Vincent. In 1995, the Hills volcano erupted on Montserrat, burying its capital city, Plymouth, under ash and forcing much of the population to relocate. Yet, even here, resilience grew from tragedy. The island rebuilt, and today, volcano tourism draws curious travelers to see the ash-covered ruins and learn about volcanic hazards. For islands like Montserrat, volcanoes shape not only the land, but the economy, identity, and future. Volcanic islands offer lessons in resilience. Their people live with uncertainty, yet they also reap the rewards of fertile soils, abundant agriculture, geothermal energy, and vibrant tourism. Culturally, volcanoes inspire myths, legends, and spiritual practices, from Peel in Hawaii to Fuji in Japan. Economically, they attract travelers seeking dramatic landscapes, adventure, and even luxury experiences, as seen in the high-end resorts of Santorini in Greece, volcanic island whose caldera creates one of the world's most breathtaking views. On a deeper level, volcanic islands reveal Earth's creative force. They show us how land is born from the sea, how life can thrive on new ground, and how cultures adapt to landscapes that are both dangerous and nurturing. They remind us that our planet is not static, but alive, reshaping itself with every eruption and every island that rises from the ocean. From the fiery origins of volcanic islands, we will sail next into coral realms, fragile yet dazzling, islands not of fire, but of life itself. Coral atolls, rings of living organisms, are some of the most delicate and beautiful places on Earth, holding stories of resilience and fragility in equal measure. If volcanic islands are children of fire, coral atolls are children of life. They are not built from molten rock, but from countless tiny creatures, corals that live, grow, and leave behind limestone skeletons. Over centuries, reefs rise from submerged volcanic mountains, forming rings around lagoons. These rings, known as atolls, are among the most fragile and enchanting island forms on Earth. The Maldives in the Indian Ocean is, perhaps, the most famous coral atoll nation. Composed of 26 atolls and more than 1,000 islands. It is a living necklace scattered across turquoise waters. Economically, the Maldives depends on two pillars: luxury, tourism, and fishing. Resorts on private islands attract travelers from around the world, offering overwater villas, diving excursions, and unrivaled views of coral reefs. The tourism industry fuels the Maldivian economy and has positioned the country as a global symbol of island luxury. At the same time, its fishing industry supports local communities, providing sustenance and export income. Yet, the Maldives is also deeply vulnerable, with rising seas threatening its very existence. In the Pacific Ocean, the Marshall Islands represent another coral atoll nation. Here, lagoons are central to life-providing fish, anchorage, and cultural identity. But challenges are significant. Climate change, saltwater intrusion, and limited resources create an ongoing struggle for survival. Still, these islands are living testaments to human resilience. For centuries, Marshallese navigators sailed between atolls using stick, charting genius maps, made from palm ribs and shells that represented ocean swells and island positions. These tools symbolize how closely atoll communities are tied to the rhythms of the sea. Kiribati, another atoll nation, straddles the equator. Its islands are spread across an area larger than the continental United States, yet its landmass is tiny. Life here revolves around lagoons, coconut palms, and fishing. Culturally, dance, storytelling, and rituals remain deeply connected to the ocean. Economically, Kiribati relies on fishing rights, remittances, and limited tourism. Like the Maldives, it faces grave risks from rising seas, a reminder that coral atolls are fragile not only ecologically, but politically and economically. The Tuamotu Archipelago of French Polynesia is the largest chain of atolls in the world. These atolls stretch across nearly 1,000 miles of the Pacific, forming rings of coral that enclose shimmering lagoons. Pearl farming is central to the economy here, with black pearls from the Tuamotus renowned worldwide. The industry combines natural beauty with luxury demand, linking small island economies to global markets. At the same time, diving tourism thrives as travelers come to swim with sharks, rays, and schools of fish in pristine coral environments. Ecologically, coral atolls are biodiversity hotspots. They support fish, turtles, seabirds, and countless marine species. The reefs act as natural breakwaters, protecting islands from waves and storms. Yet, they are also fragile. Rising ocean temperatures cause coral bleaching, where stressed corals expel the algae that give them color and energy. Pollution, overfishing, and acidification further threaten these delicate systems. The loss of coral reefs would mean not only ecological collapse, but also cultural and economic upheaval for the millions who depend on them. Culturally, atolls foster a way of life deeply intertwined with the sea. Homes are built on narrow strips of land, often just a few meters above sea level. Coconut palms, taro pits, and fishing nets are everyday elements of survival. Festivals, dances, and oral traditions often reference the ocean, the reef, and the spirits believed to inhabit them. Life here is simple, yet it is profoundly rich in meaning. Guided by tides, stars, and the fragile ring of coral that supports everything. Economically, atolls embody contrasts. On one hand, they offer some of the world's most exclusive luxury experiences. Private island resorts in the Maldives or Bora Bora cater to high-end travelers, generating immense revenue. On the other, many atoll communities live with limited infrastructure, scarce resources, and economic vulnerability. This duality luxury, beside fragility, finds the atoll experience in the global economy. The geography of atolls also sparks wonder. Imagine standing on one side of an island, gazing at the endless ocean, then walking just a few hundred meters to find yourself on the shore of a calm lagoon. This juxtaposition, the raw power of the sea beside the serenity of an inner lagoon, one of the most magical features of atolls. They are rings of life, floating in an endless ocean, delicate yet enduring. Scientifically, atolls fascinated Charles Darwin, who studied them during his voyage on the HMS Beagle. He proposed that they formed as volcanic islands slowly sank, leaving coral reefs to continue growing upward, eventually forming rings. His theory of atoll formation was later confirmed, marking one of his first great contributions to science. Thus, atolls are not only natural wonders, but also milestones in human understanding of Earth's processes. To sail among atolls is to witness the ocean's creativity. From fire-born volcanoes sinking beneath the waves, to coral polyps building limestone fortresses, to humans weaving cultures around lagoons, atolls are stories of resilience. They remind us that life can flourish even in the most fragile places, that beauty and vulnerability often go hand in hand. From the soft rings of coral, let us now travel to islands of ice. We will journey to Greenland and Antarctica, where glaciers and icebergs dominate the horizon, and where islands are carved not by fire or coral, but by the slow and powerful work of frozen time. Now we leave behind the warm turquoise waters of coral atolls and sail into colder realms where islands are sculpted not by fire or coral, but by ice. Here, silence is profound, the air crisp, and the landscapes shaped by glaciers that stretch like frozen rivers across the land. These icy islands remind us that not all islands are tropical paradises. Some are remote, stark, and yet deeply powerful in their beauty and influence over the Earth's climate and oceans. Let us begin with Greenland, the world's largest island that is not considered a continent. Vast and dramatic, it is covered by the Greenland ice sheet, which contains about 10% of the world's fresh water. To imagine its size is staggering. The ice sheet is more than 2 kilometers thick in places. And if it were to melt entirely, sea levels worldwide could rise by about 7 meters. Economically and politically, Greenland holds a unique position. Though it is part of the Kingdom of Denmark, it has increasing autonomy and is shaping its future through fishing, mining, and potentially tourism. The melting of the ice is also opening new sea routes and creating opportunities for resource exploration, linking this frozen island to global economic and geopolitical conversations. Greenland's culture is a blend of Inuit traditions and Danish influences. The Inuit people have lived here for thousands of years, relying on hunting, fishing, and an intimate knowledge of the Arctic environment. Their traditions Kayaking, dog sledding, and storytelling are deeply tied to the ice and sea. Today, Greenland balances preserving these traditions with modern economic development, creating a society where ancient wisdom and contemporary innovation coexist. From Greenland, we drift south to Antarctica. Though not a single island, Antarctica is surrounded by smaller islands that add texture to its frozen dominion. South Georgia and the South Sandwich Islands, for example, lie in the sub-Antarctic zone. South Georgia is home to massive colonies of king penguins and elephant seals. Once a whaling hub, it is now a protected sanctuary for wildlife. Economically, its relevance has shifted from resource exploitation to scientific research and tourism. Expedition cruises bring travelers who wish to glimpse penguins, icebergs, and the vast wilderness of the Southern Ocean. Antarctica itself is governed by the Antarctic Treaty System, a remarkable global agreement that designates the continent for peaceful purposes and scientific research. No nation owns Antarctica, and its unique legal status makes it a symbol of global cooperation. Yet the continent's ice plays a decisive role in Earth's climate. The Antarctic ice sheet is the largest mass of ice on the planet. Like Greenland, its fate is tied to global sea levels. Even small changes in Antarctic glaciers have worldwide consequences, linking this remote frozen land to the survival of coastal communities thousands of miles away. Among Antarctica's surrounding islands, Deception Island stands out. It is a caldera, a volcanic island with a flooded crater. Ships can sail into its central harbor, which is surrounded by steaming volcanic beaches and icy cliffs. Here, one can stand on the shore with snow falling, while warm volcanic sand heats the feet. Deception Island is a surreal place where fire and ice meet. A reminder that even in the coldest regions, Earth's inner heat persists. Culturally, icy islands have always captivated the human imagination. Norse sagas told of voyages to Greenland and Iceland. Inuit legends speak of spirits inhabiting the ice and sea. Early explorers such as Roald Amundsen and Ernest Shackleton braved unimaginable hardships to chart these frozen worlds. Shackleton's journey, in particular, has become legendary. When his ship, the Endurance, was trapped and crushed by Antarctic ice, he led his crew across ice floes and treacherous seas to safety, an extraordinary feat of leadership and survival. Economically, polar islands are also gaining attention for their resources. Greenland is rich in rare earth minerals, vital for modern technology. As ice retreats, mining opportunities increase, though they also raise ecological concerns. Tourism in icy islands is a growing industry as well. Expedition cruises take travelers to see icebergs, whales, and penguin colonies. For many, it is a luxury experience, one of the most exclusive forms of travel, offering encounters with some of the last untouched landscapes on Earth. Ecologically, icy islands are fragile ecosystems. Polar bears in the Arctic depend on sea ice to hunt. Penguins in Antarctica rely on icy shores for breeding. Seals, whales, and seabirds all tie their lives to the rhythm of ice and sea. As climate change reduces ice cover, these species face new challenges. The polar world is a living barometer of global change, reminding us that the health of icebound islands is tied to the health of the entire planet. The geography of icy islands is also striking. Glaciers carve fjords into the land, creating deep valleys filled with shimmering blue water. Icebergs drift silently, their surfaces glistening in the pale light. Some are small, like floating sculptures. Others are massive, larger than cities. To witness them is to see nature at its most majestic and ephemeral, for icebergs slowly melt, returning their frozen water to the sea. Icy islands also influence global currents. Glaciers melt. Fresh water enters the ocean, altering salinity and potentially disrupting currents, like the Gulf Stream. These currents regulate climate far beyond the polar regions, shaping weather patterns across the globe. In this way, icy islands remind us that even the most distant places are connected to our daily lives. To travel to these frozen islands is to enter a world of extremes. The silence is vast, broken only by the crack of ice or the cry of a seabird. The landscapes are stark, yet their beauty is overwhelming. They are places where humans are humbled, where survival depends on respect for the elements, and where the planet's story is written in layers of ice. From icy frontiers, our journey will next turn toward cultural islands, those places where human traditions, languages, and customs create unique worlds unto themselves. These islands remind us that geography does not only shape landscapes, it shapes identities, ways of life, and connections between people and place. As we sail onward, we leave behind the quiet majesty of ice-bound islands and step into a realm where geography and culture merge in fascinating ways. Islands are not only defined by their mountains, volcanoes, or coral reefs. They are living theaters of human imagination, where communities have forged identities that are distinct, resilient, and deeply tied to their environment. In many ways, islands are laboratories of culture, each one preserving traditions that the mainland might lose to the tides of change. Let us begin in Bali, Indonesia. Known worldwide for its beaches and resorts, Bali is much more than a destination for tourism. It is a cultural island where Hindu traditions flourish in a predominantly Muslim nation. Temples rise in every village, offerings of flowers and rice decorate doorways, and gamelan music fills the air. Life here is guided by the Balinese concept of Trihita Karana, which emphasizes harmony between people, nature, and the divine. Tourists may see it in the form of ceremonies and dances, but for locals, it is a philosophy woven into daily life. Economically, Bali thrives on its blend of culture and tourism, offering a luxurious travel experience that also sustains traditional crafts, from batik textiles to intricate wood carvings. Moving westward, we find the island of Sardinia in Italy. While politically part of Italy, Sardinia has preserved its own language, traditions, and even a distinct sense of identity. Sardinians celebrate festivals that trace back centuries, wearing elaborate masks and costumes that symbolize ancient rituals. The island's cuisine, too, is unique. Pecorino cheese, rich olive oils, and roasted meats are central to Sardinian dining. Interestingly, Sardinia is also one of the world's blue zones, regions where people live exceptionally long lives. Researchers link this to diet, close-knit communities, and the island's lifestyle. Here, culture does not only entertain, it sustains life itself. Across the world, in Japan, Okinawa offers another striking example. While geographically part of Japan, Okinawa's culture is distinct, shaped by its history as the Ryukyu Kingdom. The people here speak their own languages, celebrate unique festivals, and practice martial arts such as karate, which originated in Okinawa. Like Sardinia, Okinawa is also a blue zone, with one of the highest concentrations of centenarians in the world. Their diet of vegetables, seaweed, and fish, along with a cultural philosophy of ikigai, or purpose in life, contribute to their remarkable longevity. For travelers, Okinawa is a blend of natural beauty, coral reefs, beaches, and forest sand cultural richness, offering a slower, more reflective form of tourism than the bustling mainland cities. The Caribbean, too, is a mosaic of cultural islands. Take Jamaica, for example. Though small in size, its cultural influence is global. Reggae music, Rastafarian philosophy, and vibrant cuisine have made Jamaica a cultural giant. Its identity was shaped by a history of colonialism, African heritage, and resistance, blending into something uniquely Jamaican. The island is also a major hub for tourism, attracting travelers with its luxury resorts, beaches, and cultural festivals. Yet for Jamaicans, culture is more than a tourist attraction. It is a source of pride and resilience. In the Indian Ocean, Madagascar presents an entirely different story. Larger than many countries, Madagascar is often called the eighth continent because of its isolation and unique culture. Its people, the Malagasy, trace their roots to both Southeast Asia and Africa, creating a culture unlike any other. Their language is related to those of Borneo, while their traditions and music reflect African influences. The island's economy is tied to both agriculture and tourism, with travelers drawn by its wildlife and cultural diversity. Malagasy traditions, such as the Fama Dahana, or turning of the bones ceremony, reflect a worldview where the living and the dead remain closely connected. Another fascinating cultural island is Easter Island, or Rapa Nui, in the Pacific Ocean, famous for its giant stone statues. The Mo'i Easter Island is one of the most remote inhabited places on Earth. The Rapa Nui people carved these statues centuries ago, and while their exact purpose is still debated, they are believed to represent ancestors who watched over the land and its people. Easter Island's isolation created a culture that was both innovative and fragile. Today, it is part of Chile, but its Polynesian heritage remains strong. Economically, Easter Island relies on tourism, with visitors traveling great distances to experience its mysteries. Cultural islands also serve as crossroads where different influences meet. Zanzibar, off the coast of Tanzania, is one such place. Known as the Spice Island, Zanzibar has a history shaped by Arab traders, African communities, and European colonizers. Its capital, Stone Town, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, with winding alleys, ornate wooden doors, and vibrant markets. Zanzibar's culture is a fusion of Swahili, Arabic, Indian, and European influences, reflected in its music, food, and architecture. Tourism and spice production form the backbone of its economy, making Zanzibar a destination that combines luxury travel with deep history. For some islands, culture is preserved through language. In the Channel Islands, situated between France and the United Kingdom, ancient dialects of Norman French are still spoken by some residents. These islands have their own legal systems, traditions, and identities, despite their small size. Islands often produce unique art forms as well. In the Pacific, Hawaiian hula dance is both entertainment and storytelling, preserving myths and history through movement. In the Caribbean, steel pan music from Trinidad transformed oil drums into instruments of joy. On small islands, creativity often flourishes, perhaps because limited resources inspire innovation. What begins as a local tradition can ripple outward, shaping global music, art, and identity. Economically, cultural islands attract travelers seeking experiences beyond scenery. Luxury tourism increasingly markets not just beaches, but cultural immersion learning, traditional dances, tasting local cuisine, or staying in heritage homes. Education and cultural exchange also play a role. Universities and research centers often study island societies as microcosms of global dynamics, from sustainability to migration. The resilience of cultural islands is also noteworthy. Many have faced colonization, resource extraction, and modernization pressures, yet they have preserved their traditions. Sometimes, islands become symbols of resistance, like Cuba, with its unique blend of politics, culture, and identity. Other times, they become symbols of harmony, like Samoa, where traditional governance coexists with modern democracy. In essence, islands of culture are worlds within worlds. They teach us that geography shapes identity, but so does history, community, and creativity. Each cultural island is a reminder that human diversity is as vast and wondrous as the natural diversity of the planet. From cultural traditions, our journey will next lead us to islands of mystery, places surrounded not only by water, but also by stories, legends, and enigmas that have fascinated explorers and dreamers for centuries. Now we drift into waters where reality and myth mingle. Islands have always been places of mystery, emerging suddenly from the sea, often shrouded in fog. Their isolation sparking the imagination of sailors and storytellers alike. Some islands are steeped in legends of treasure and curses. Others in stories of lost civilizations or unexplained phenomena. Tonight, let us gently explore these islands of mystery, where geography becomes inseparable from wonder. One of the most famous of these mysterious islands is Oak Island in Nova Scotia, Canada. For over 2 centuries, people have been digging into its so-called money pit. A shaft where layers of wood, stone, and strange artifacts were discovered. Legends claim that hidden treasure lies beneath, perhaps belonging to pirates, the Knights Templar, or even Shakespeare's manuscripts. Despite numerous excavations, no confirmed treasure has ever been found. Yet, the mystery endures, drawing treasure hunters and television crews from around the world. The island's allure is not only about wealth, but about curiosity, the idea that beneath its soil lies a secret that refuses to be revealed. Another enigmatic place is Hy-Brasil, a mythical island said to appear west of Ireland. For centuries, it appeared on maps, believed to emerge from the mist once every 7 years before vanishing again. Sailors told of an island of great wealth and beauty, sometimes inhabited by mysterious beings. No such island has ever been proven to exist. But the story of Hebrazel lingers as a reminder of how islands, real or imagined, can fuel exploration and myth alike. Closer to the Mediterranean, the island of Santorini in Greece holds mysteries of its own. Once known as Thera, it was devastated by a volcanic eruption around 1600 BCE, one of the most powerful in recorded history. This eruption destroyed much of the island and the Minoan settlements upon it, sending waves across the Aegean. Some scholars believe that the story of Atlantis, the legendary lost civilization described by Plato, may have been inspired by Santorini's dramatic fate. Visitors to Santorini today are enchanted by its whitewashed houses and blue-domed churches. But beneath that beauty lies a history of cataclysm and speculation. In the Pacific Ocean, we encounter Non-Model, an ancient city built on a series of small, artificial islands off the coast of Pohnpei in Micronesia. Constructed from massive basalt stones, some weighing up to 50 tons, Nan-Madol was once the ceremonial and political center of the Sodler dynasty. To this day, archaeologists remain unsure how the islanders moved and placed the massive stones without advanced technology. Some legends even suggest that supernatural powers were involved. Standing among the ruins, surrounded by the sea, one feels both awe and mystery, reminders of human ingenuity and the secrets of forgotten civilizations. The island of Socotra, lying off the coast of Yemen, is mysterious in a different way, sometimes called the Alien Island. Socotra is home to plants and animals found nowhere else on Earth. Its dragons, blood, trees, with umbrella-like canopies and crimson sap, look like something out of science fiction. For centuries, travelers regarded Socotra as strange, even otherworldly. Today, scientists recognize it as a treasure of biodiversity, while visitors experience its landscapes as both eerie and beautiful. Easter Island, which we encountered earlier for its cultural significance, also belongs to the islands of mystery. The Moai statues raise endless questions. How were they carved? And what purpose did they serve? Theories abound, from ancestor worship to political symbols of power, but definitive answers remain elusive. The mystery of Easter Island is amplified by its remoteness, a tiny dot in the Pacific where human ambition and ingenuity left behind silent stone guardians. In the Caribbean, we find Navis Island, a small, uninhabited rock between Haiti and Jamaica. Despite its size, it has been the subject of territorial disputes and legends. Some believe it to be cursed, citing shipwrecks and strange disappearances near its shores. Its cliffs are steep, its waters dangerous, and yet it has lured explorers, fortune seekers, and even governments. Drawn by its phosphate deposits and strategic position, not all mysterious islands are about treasure or ruins. Some are linked to supernatural tales. Bermuda, while not a single island but part of an archipelago, is forever tied to the Bermuda Triangle legend. Ships and planes are said to vanish without explanation in the region, sparking theories ranging from magnetic anomalies to alien abductions. While science provides rational explanations such as unpredictable weather and strong ocean currents, legend persists. turning Bermuda into one of the most mysterious names on the map. Moving to Japan, we encounter Hashima Island, also known as Gungunjima or Battleship Island. Once a thriving coal mining community, it was abandoned in the 1970s when resources ran out. Today, it stands as a ghost island with crumbling concrete buildings and empty streets. Its silhouette resembles a warship, and its eerie silence has inspired filmmakers and travelers alike. Hashima is both a relic of industrial ambition and a reminder of how quickly human presence can vanish, leaving behind a haunting landscape. And then there are the Phantom Islands, places once charted on maps, later proven not to exist. One such example is Sandy Island, shown on maps between Australia and New Caledonia until 2012, when a scientific expedition confirmed that there was nothing but open ocean where the island was supposed to be. For centuries, sailors and cartographers believed in islands that may have been mirages, mistakes, or myths. These phantom islands remind us that mystery is sometimes born from human error as much as from hidden truth. Tourism often embraces these mysterious islands, turning legend into experience. Visitors to Oak Island explore its supposed treasure sites. Travelers to Santorini ponder Atlantis as they gaze across the caldera. And adventurers to Socotra marvel at its alien landscapes. Luxury travel packages even market mystery, inviting guests to combine comfort with curiosity. Economically, mystery itself becomes a resource, drawing those who seek both knowledge and wonder. Ultimately, islands of mystery show us that geography is not only about land and sea. It is about the stories we attach to them, the sense of awe, fear, or curiosity they inspire. These islands may never yield all their secrets, but perhaps that is their greatest gift. They remind us that the world still holds mysteries, even in an age of satellites and digital maps. From the mysteries of the past, our journey will now turn toward the future. In our final part, we will explore the future of islands themselves, how they are changing, how they face challenges, and how humanity may shape or preserve these fragile, enchanting worlds. As we arrive at the final part of this gentle voyage, let us turn our gaze from the past and present toward the horizon of the future. Islands, though timeless in their beauty, are not static. They are shaped by tides, by tectonic shifts, by storms, and increasingly by human choices. In this last chapter, we will reflect on what lies ahead for islands, their people, and their ecosystems, balancing the challenges they face with the hope they continue to inspire. One of the most pressing issues for islands is climate change. Rising sea levels threaten low-lying atolls like the Maldives, Tuvalu, and Kiribati. These nations, built only a few meters above sea level, face the real possibility of being submerged within this century. For their people, it is not just about losing land, but about losing culture, identity, and history tied to the ocean. Some leaders have even spoken of building floating cities or purchasing land in other countries to ensure survival. In this way, islands become both symbols of vulnerability and pioneers of resilience. Technology offers potential solutions. Architects and engineers are exploring floating infrastructure, sustainable tourism, and renewable energy systems designed for islands. For example, Solar energy farms in the Maldives and wind power projects in the Caribbean are reducing reliance on imported fossil fuels. The future of islands may be linked not only to survival, but to becoming models of sustainable living. What begins as necessity may one day inspire the world, as island nations show how to harmonize modern life with fragile ecosystems. Tourism, a vital part of many island economies, will also evolve. Luxury travel experiences may grow, but with increasing focus on ecotourism, ensuring that coral reefs, rainforests, and beaches remain intact for future generations. Imagine a tourist experience not just built around leisure, but around learning. Sleeping under the stars on a Pacific island while listening to local storytellers, or diving in carefully protected waters where coral gardens are tended like living museums. The economic value of these experiences is immense, but so is their cultural richness. Another challenge is biodiversity. Islands are home to unique species found nowhere else, from the lemurs of Madagascar to the Komodo dragons of Indonesia. Yet invasive species, deforestation, and habitat loss place many at risk. Conservation projects are already underway. Tortoises reintroduced to islands. Seabird sanctuaries in New Zealand, marine protected zones around Seychelles. In the future, we may see islands as sanctuaries, not only for their own species, but as safe havens for global biodiversity under threat. Cultural preservation will also be key. Island communities often maintain traditions that feel timeless. From Polynesian navigation without instruments to the singing rituals of Pacific villages. From the artistry of Balinese temples to the oral histories of Caribbean elders. As globalization increases, the risk of cultural dilution grows. But technology may also protect culture. Digital archives of languages, virtual reality tours of cultural sites, and global platforms where island voices can be heard. In a sense, the isolation that once defined islands is dissolving, replaced by a new form of global connection. Economically, islands will continue to navigate unique paths. Some will thrive through tourism, others through offshore industries, fisheries, or renewable energy. Some, like Singapore, show how islands can become global hubs of trade, finance, and technology. Others will focus on agriculture, art, or education. The economy of islands in the future will likely be diverse, reflecting the creativity of their people and the opportunities of globalization. There is also the question of ownership and access. With rising interest in private island tourism, some fear that islands may become exclusive havens for the wealthy. Yet others see opportunity in this trend, as responsible luxury development can fund conservation and community projects. The balance will be delicate, ensuring that islands remain places of shared heritage rather than privatized enclaves. We must also consider migration. As sea levels rise and resources shift, some island populations may be forced to move. Already, communities in the Pacific have begun preparing for potential relocation. But migration may not always mean loss. It can mean cultural spread, where traditions of the sea enrich new lands, and where island peoples continue to shape the world, even far from their original shores. The future of islands, then, is not only tied to geography, but to the resilience of their people. And yet, despite the challenges, islands will continue to captivate. They will remain places of wonder, whether it is Iceland's glaciers shimmering under the northern lights, Indonesia's volcanic mountains rising from the sea, or the coral atolls of the Pacific glowing in the moonlight. They will be places where humanity reconnects with nature, where simplicity balances modern life, and where the mysteries of the ocean meet the warmth of human community. In the end, islands are more than land surrounded by water. They are metaphors for the human experience. They remind us of solitude, resilience, fragility, and beauty. They show us how cultures adapt in isolation, how ecosystems flourish in uniqueness, and how even the smallest specks on the map can hold stories as vast as the sea. So, as this journey closes, let us remember the islands not only as lessons to cherish. They teach us that fragility is not weakness, that beauty often lies in smallness, and that isolation can give rise to creativity, survival, and wonder. Whether real or imagined, islands will always draw us back mysterious, fragile, eternal. Thank you for sailing along this journey of 40 island facts, stretching from Iceland to Indonesia, from the volcanic to the coral, from the historical to the mythical. If you found peace, curiosity, or even a gentle sense of wonder, let it stay with you tonight as you drift toward rest. And perhaps, in your dreams, you may find yourself upon an island quiet, timeless, and waiting just for you.